So, welcome once again. I'm kind of on a roll with these. I guess, I kind of beat boredom by creating content. So that's one of my little secrets is I'm either working out or creating content or something. But that's one of the main reasons that the pop-up classes are donation-based is because really you're doing me a favor by allowing me to, you know, uh, jabber on and on endlessly. And I appreciate everyone who enjoys that. But anyway, this one is really for a friend of mine. And they asked me to include this at some point in a book or a pop-up class. And then aspects of this are already within some of the pop-up classes, and I may go into it eventually in the book, but for the moment right now, I think that this will be better. But this is basically the whole twin flames, soulmates, karmic connection, everything, take two, or part deux, as we will. So I've already kind of gone over this once, but I want to go deeper into it. Before I go into it, I kind of want to mention some things that you can research. And so some things are twin flame delusion, love attachment, cluster B and cluster A, relationships, and also narcissistic and or borderline personality disorder, or basically any kind of cluster B and empath. And then some satellite things that you can go into are different things like flying monkeys and hoovering and all of the rest. And this is not coming down on anyone, okay? Anyone that's, occasionally project cluster A stuff out into the world because, a whole lot of it is mistrust. You really got to look at yourself and be honest. And so, people have pointed out my mistrust, and really that, again, it's what you're really projecting out into the world. It's the inner mirror and the outer mirror. So, if you can't trust yourself, like say I couldn't trust myself, then how are you going to trust anybody else? And so it kind of manifests into that that darker side of the Batman personality, I suppose, rather than, the things that the Batman stories that I appreciate more, where he learns to trust and, where he shows that he has a good relationship with everybody in his life and things like that. So when I talk about cluster B and how the quote unquote, and we're really going to look at the aspect of not necessarily twin flame, but mirror soul, because once again, that talks about everything we talk about. I mean, that correlates with everything we talk about in the pop-up classes, really, especially with the inner and the outer mirrors. And so, the whole idea of the mirror soul, that's more important than just, a title. So again, when I'm talking about cluster B personalities, I'm not coming down on anybody. We all have things that we are dealing with, and that's just what those people are dealing with, Yeah, it can be hurtful. And again, anything that we're not healing, any wound that we don't heal, essentially, it's going to bleed on people who never cut us. Once again, to go into that old sort of quote. So it's one of the reasons why you really have to look at the inner mirror, and you really have to see all the scars and the cracks and everything, and you have to really accept and love them, so that you're not projecting that out into the world, but you're, you know, within how you're interacting with it, but also so that you're not reflecting back this idea of, oh, I've been hurt. So what are you going to get more of? You're going to get more hurt, you know? So healing helps. It's a omnidirectional street, you know. Or maybe anyway. I think I might have done that wrong. Okay, omnidirectional. No, so it's a multi-directional street. Okay, it's kind of. Let's just go ahead. You know, when you don't have a better word for it, just say quantum. So you know, it's a quantum street. Okay. Um, you stamp quantum on it and you sell fucking books like crazy. Yeah, it's basically just become a marketing tool. But anyway, so is the twin flame thing. The first thing that I want to point out about the twin flame thing is it's primarily a thought form. Okay, it's an egregor. It's a very dangerous thought form almost because it's so powerful, because it ties into these real things that are going on. And then and these really strong emotional karmic connections that we have. And I know, once again, my friend is going through this right now, and watches my last video quite a lot, and you know, then contacts me, and I'm like, look, you know, it's you, you're the focus. It's the more that you shift it off into something else and external, the more painful it's going to be. So, so that winds us back to the idea of the mirror soul. And in these videos, I don't do as good a job, I know, as in my classes, because if I'm sitting there staring at myself, it's like, okay, wrap it up, man. Where if I'm just staring at a blank screen or the sound waves of my recording with, then, you know, it's a lot easier for me to just drone on and on. Plus in classes, if I take an hour, you know, it's fine. But here it's like, okay, well, nobody wants to go over 10 minutes. But that winds us back to the idea of the mirror soul, basically. It's not an other. It is, anytime there is a strong attachment, don't get me wrong, you know, and it can be obsessive. And what we have to realize is that anytime we're obsessive, it's basically us projecting control, whether that's trying to control ourselves, control another, control reality, whatever. And the more that we try to control, the more that we'll be controlled. And the more that those balancing forces come in, and the more importance we put on something, not only the further away that's going to get, but the more that balancing forces are going to slap us back in the other direction. That's the pendulum that kind of knocks us back and forth within the dual world, you know. When you get to non-duality, then it can be a different story. But you know, unless you're a complete hermit who, you know, barely interacts with the world except sitting on a cushion and talking down to people from a dais, then, you know, there you are. You're going to be in the world. You just have to have these reminders to wake up and to remind yourself of what you really are. You are that. I am that I am. And the primordial nature that is, you know, and is creating. And it's so much beyond, you know, you can't say that from the ego, because again, that's already, you know, anything ego-based is already heavily drenched in importance. We have to be important within our egos. There's a bird that keeps knocking on one of the upstairs windows. But anyway, trying to get my attention. But anyway, so anytime, so this is really the technique here. I always try to involve something practical rather than just me talking. But the idea is that idea of the mirror soul. So anytime you're missing that attachment is really strong and you just feel drawn to it doesn't even have to be somebody, but let's say it's embodied in this case within somebody. Anytime that you're really missing, you turn the attention rather than trying to, I would recommend having no energetic, if you've got a really strong attachment to somebody, that is already grounds for codependency and everything else. And that's basically a lack of energy within yourself. That's basically you ghosting yourself, you rejecting yourself if you're chasing after anything or anyone. So focus on your internal state, and you can go inside and you can ask, what am I missing? This is the essence of shadow work, is what am I ignoring? Okay. That's the essence of ignorance, is that you're ignoring something. It's not that you're stupid. It's that you are ignoring something within your reality. You're pretending that it doesn't exist, whatever. Now that can be done positively and it can be done negatively. If you're doing it somewhat consciously, then usually it's going to be a positive nature. Unless you're just completely disavowing anything that happened rather than looking at it straight on. So anytime you feel that really strong attachment, go into yourself and ask, what am I ignoring? What am I missing? What do I feel that I'm missing? Okay. So what do I feel that I'm lacking, basically? And then that's when, because that's all it really is the outer mirror, this feeling reflecting the inner wound. There's something missing within the inner image, within your inner image. Okay, that's the only reason you could want anything else. Otherwise, you'd have it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have that person, but a person, the right person, or even, well, we'll go into this in a second. But anyway, give yourself that, okay? Feel that you have that. Whatever you're missing, feel that you have that. Give that as a gift to yourself and believe that you have it. Have that faith, once again, like in the last video, that you have it, okay? And usually if it's another person, it's not that person. It's the feeling or the story that person invokes within you. Feel that you have that. And then maybe you'll find the real thing, okay? Or maybe you'll just be okay being. But that's the essence of that attachment, because reunification never even has to happen. This whole idea of, oh, two people are going to come back together and you get this fairy tale. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But if it was so painful and so traumatic and so toxic, and you're pretty certain that other person isn't doing the work, why would you want to get back involved in that? And I know that, trust me, I know that those wounds can be very persuasive, these abandonment wounds and everything, because that's really a lot of the essence of it right there is these abandonment traumas and wounds and trauma bonds and things of that nature. That transcend even this life and go into, karmic things, but karma is also this life as well. So it's this whole idea of, what am I missing? What am I ignoring? What am I lacking? And then feeling that you have that, giving it as a gift to yourself, okay? So much so that, it doesn't matter what the outer mirror is projecting anymore. It's just, You've given that to yourself, and that's what you have, and that's what you are now. You are that. I am that I am. And then, so the reunification thing, that's really also, that's the divine feminine, the divine masculine within you. It doesn't have to be reflected out into the world, although it can, and it can be done in a healthy way. It doesn't have to be, again, if you're obsessive about one person, then already that's a lack of love to yourself, you know, thinking, oh, that's the only one and I've lost it. Once again, that's why at the beginning of this video, I said, go into, you know, cluster B and empath, because that's essentially what cluster B does. And again, I'm not coming down on anyone. We all have our stuff that we deal with. And this just reflects inner wounds that haven't been healed, usually from childhood. And so it's this projection of the ultimate, you know. And then you've lost your ultimate. Well, of course, that's going to feel painful because you're still looking for that ultimate out in the world. And you know it exists, you know, you've had it. Maybe it hurt you so bad, maybe it devalued you, maybe it discarded you, but there was the ideation phase first, you know, and that ideation phase can be really, really hard to get across. But again, until you can just give that to yourself, so much so, how is it ever going to reflect back to you if you're constantly, gimme, 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 gimme? So we've got the divine masculine, the divine feminine. So we've talked about aspects of this within, I have at least within, if you've taken in my pop-up classes in the theurgy and thaumaturgy, correlating them not only with reality, ideas from Vadim Zeland, reality transurfing, but also within initiatory theurgical work, within the tree of life and the pillars, and also within aspects of the Taoist Four Golden Immortals. And so we've gone into all of that in different classes, or I have. And if you've taken any of those classes, then, you know, you have as well. But essentially you've got, you know, you've got strength, sort of this masculine, and this transcends, you know, male, female, whatever. So this is not a gender role thing. This is just, we're dubbing it this for no other reason than I guess it's convenient, you know, and somewhat of a universal archetype, but those shift. So you've got this strength, and you've got compassion or mercy, okay? And they've got to come together, you know? And once again, we can come into like some of the best Batman stories where, you know, you've got the strength, but you've also got mercy and compassion. And those are the ones that really tug on your heart, like, yeah, you know, you're human after all. But essentially, that's the reunification, is an internal one between those aspects within inside yourself. Has nothing to do with anything external or anyone external. That is just the spark, again, that flame, the spark of the flame, reminding you to wake up, okay? Reminding you of what you are, reminding you that, hey, you've been out of control. You've manifested this crap into your life. And now you've got to go inside into the inner mirror, and you've got to, you know, you've got some work to do, man. And that's it. Okay. There's nothing else really that needs to be said. Everything else is just compounding it. The more that you feed into this thought form and this egregor, the more that its hold is going to be on you. Go within, okay? And trust me, it took years for me to deal with that. And so much so that, you know, it took years before I could make this video. But that's the thing. I had to acknowledge what was going on inside, and it had nothing to do with anything going on outside, rather than that's just a projection of me, of my internal state. Otherwise, why would that be attracted or created, or however you want to see it, into the life that I am living? All right, so that's my content for today. Um, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you find it helpful. Um, and yeah, thank you for allowing me to create this. So once again, this is always the reminder, and it should be even more prevalent within this video, but you are enough. You are worthy. You are loved. Give that love to yourself, and everything opens up after that, okay? Just be in that pure I am awareness and be love. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate you, and I will bid you adieu.